anyone to join us, so nice and easy. So what do you got planned for the weekend, brother? Anything good?
Yeah, been for me stomp this morning.
You've already been?
Yeah, already been, mate. Yeah, up at 5. I knew it, got it done. Got a boxing session coming up straight after this down at the gym.
Who are you, mate?
Yeah, I know. I look in the mirror sometimes and go, who's this bloke? Who is he?
He's pretending. So good. I thought what we'd do, the reason I asked you for your favorite band is we can do a bit of prelude warm up. What do you reckon? Have you got a favorite song from the Fooey's?
Yeah, Learn to Fly.
Learn to Fly. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's get it happening. Oh, mate, how good.
Yeah.
How good.
Play it all the time.
Yeah. What's your gym playlist look like?
70s, 80s rock.
Yeah.
So bits of everything, AC/DC.
Mate, I thought you were going to say to me when I asked you who's your favorite band, I thought you were going to say to me something like Bob Dylan or the Eagles or something like that. But when you come back with the Fooey's, I'm like, what?
Yeah, I've got the old time favourites. I've got John Cougar, 𝐾𝐞𝐚𝐫𝐬, and
mate,
I still like a bit of the modern music.
Yeah. Is that off the back of your sons?
Yeah, a lot of it. Yeah, some of it. A lot of his music's based on movies.
I like it, mate.
Yeah.
I like it.
He actually likes a lot of the old stuff more than me.
So it's the other way around. So you've influenced him in a reverse way.
Yeah. In a funny way. Yeah, he likes all the old stuff.
So good.
AC/DC, Rolling Stones.
Mate, I'm gonna totally lose some fans here. Like I hate AC/DC. Oh, they're the one old band that I can't stand. Oh, just the screaming and shit, mate. But anyhow, I do digress. Good morning, guys. What's going on? So as you can see here, I've got our main man, Jimmy Norval, the legend. So did you see that little video short that I popped up yesterday?
I did. I've watched it about a dozen times and it's still freaking me out. To watch yourself change in 10 seconds, like to watch someone else do that would be freaky, but seeing yourself go in 10 seconds, transform is really surreal. It's quite weird.
It really does represent why we've kind of got to take photos, right? Because it's not something you necessarily see when you're just kind of doing it side by side. So as we're letting anyone that wants to come in, I might actually just play that photo, mate, if I can. Will it fit here? Let's have a look. Maybe it's not going to let us. Here we go. So let's have a look. So from the start, so that was day one.
Yeah.
Good morning, Trent. How are you, mate? Look at the gut. Look at the gut shrinking as we roll this.
I saw the first watch and I'm going, no, that's the last. No, that's the last. No, that's the last.
I think you skipped a few as well, mate. All right, I reckon we get this one. We get this one started, my brother.
Yep.
So I'll destroy the Fooey's and we are ready to rock and roll. All right, let's do it.
Yep.
So 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast, the podcast that you come to when you're sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest. His name is Jim Norval. How are you, Jimmy? You well, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Self?
Good to hear. I was actually chatting to Michael, one of our other coaches, prior to this, and we were saying how good of a voice you've got for radio, mate.
Yeah, got the head for it. Definitely got the head for radio, mate. Yeah.
I love it. So in this episode, guys, what we're going to be doing is I'm doing this like kind of a client series. I really like the idea of sharing some stories from transformations inside of our academy. And we got Corey up last week, and by the response to that, it was sort of well appreciated. So I'm going to have a talk to Jimmy this morning. Before we get started, guys, I want to remind you that on the 30th of November, we're going to be giving away $300 to each of 2 people. It's very simple. All you need to do, screenshot an episode that you like, share it to your Instagram stories and tag me, or alternatively, give us a review on the Apple Podcast player and you'll be entered to win $300. It'll take you 2 minutes, but more importantly, it will help us share this message of the Better Body Academy getting away with these dumb diets. Anyway, let's go to Jimmy Boy. So for those of the crowd listening that don't know you, that are not part of the Academy, give us your kind of 30, 60-second backstory. Who are you? Where you're from? How old are you? All that type of stuff.
Okay, I'm Jim Norval. I'm 57 years young. Come from a pretty normal family. One of 4 kids. Grew up in South Wallaby on the Central Coast.
Nice.
Pretty laid-back sort of area back then. Pretty normal childhood. Played soccer. Well, my older brother played soccer, so I just had to play soccer. That was it.
We won't hold that against you, mate.
Yeah, well, I ended up playing footy like 20 years later, but anyway.
Right, nice.
Yeah, had a normal, good family upbringing. Old man was around all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Old girl, meat, 3 veg every night. Maybe
you strike me as like you just like it nice and simple in a good way.
In a good way, yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Just keep it normal.
And what about yourself, mate? You've got how many kids? Is it just the one or a couple?
No, I got daughter Emma. She's 25, and Liam's 20. So I got one of each, boy and a girl, and a 1-year-old grandson.
Wow.
Xander the man. That's what I call him. Xander man.
It's pretty hard to pronounce X's with your voice, mate.
It is. It's shocking, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, okay. So let's go all the way back to, okay. So you were growing up and you were pretty fit when you were growing up or what? Or just kind of...
I was a little fatty.
Really? What were you...
fatty, mate.
What were you at your max as a kid?
Oh, can't really remember. I just had a bit of a gut. Like,
right.
Had a bit of a fat head, fat gut, just a little bit, nothing ridiculous, just a little bit overweight, probably most of my childhood.
Got it.
Copped a bit of ribbon at school and stuff.
Did you? Really?
Yeah, but I sorted that out by the time I went to high school.
Right.
They just picked on me for ages, and I just snotted him one day, and people stopped picking on me, so the end of that.
I thought you were a lover, not a fighter, mate. Come on, other way around.
No, definitely not a fighter.
So over the course of obviously your lifetime, had kids, let's just call it rounded out and say 20 years ago. How was your health in your mid 30s, mid 40s? Were you a pretty fit and healthy man, or were you more kind of on the beers, or what was your story?
Yeah, I was pretty well on the beers. Yeah. I used to drink a bit, a fair bit actually. I was pretty busy. I was working 2 and 3 jobs. Like most blokes, in that era, you're working your ass off, pay the mortgage, bringing up kids. You got to fund your drinking. So yeah, just worked hard. Worked 2, 3 jobs most of my adult life.
You sort of said that obviously tongue in cheek with the fun you drinking thing, but there's a reality to this, and I think the reality is that I actually just got off the phone to one of my old friends that I've reconnected with, and he's only in his mid 30s, and what he said to me is that life has just got on top of him. He feels like he's juggling a business, he's got a wife, he's got kids. There's some extensive kind of issues in their outer family he's dealing with. And for him, alcohol is a bit of an escape. It's a way to numb. Do you think that's because, and I'm asking you this question, not because it's specific to you, but because I think there's a lot of guys out there that would feel that exact same thing.
Yeah, it's a bit of an escape. It's sort of, I work my ass off and told her to have a drink and get on it. There's probably a little bit of it. But yeah, it is a bit of an escape. Like my young bloke, he's on the spectrum with autism.
Right. So
there's a few little things you sort of deal with. Nothing too bad, but I like socialising. I was never a person to drink at home on my own.
Yeah.
Like after work or have beers, or it's like, let's
Mm-hmm.
go out Friday night. Like I was out 4 nights a week in my young days, like every week, 4 nights a week, plastered.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah.
So did that? Would you say that hard living would that have taken any sort of toll on your health? And like, when did you start to go, oh, okay, like I need to reel this in a bit?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I smoked most of my adult life.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I give up from 10 years to 30 to 40. Would you believe it?
Wow.
And took it up again. Started working at the local pub again.
Mm-hmm.
And just one of the jobs I had, and started smoking again at 40. I give up about 2.5 years ago.
The reason I brought you, sorry, my fault. Now, I was going to say the reason I brought you onto the podcast, Jim, because I think that like a lot of people will kind of relate to your story, particularly friends and family of yours who have known you obviously a long time, and so it's a thing that it reminds me a little bit of my old man, like that idea of I went to work and I come home and I worked hard, so I deserve it.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing to think about. Like, for me personally, I wouldn't need to feel that I deserve to have a drink. It's either I have a drink or I don't, but I don't need to earn my drink.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mentality.
Yeah. It's a mentality, and I think if I asked my old man, maybe 20 years ago, he just said I remember him coming home one day and he said to me, what's this fucking stress thing? Why is everyone fucking stressed? What is stress? I've never heard of it. Just harden the fuck up and stop being a pussy. And then he would get really angry about something, and it was kind of visible to me that he was stressed, but he didn't know it was stressed. He just didn't know it, right? And I think that's probably a lot of fellas. They wouldn't own up to saying, yeah, you know what, I'm fucking carrying a lot of weight at the moment, right? As in like a mental weight, emotional weight. But if I acknowledge that that's stress, then that shows that I'm weak. I'm piss weak in some way. Yeah. So you resonate with that idea?
To myself, I'm weak. It's something you keep within, and you just deal with it.
Yeah.
But but you don't. Yeah, it's funny how I've changed in a bit like that. I don't have that much stress. Like Gay said, well, you'll never die of cancer because you're never stressed. But I mean, I try not to stress what I can't control. If I can't control it, I don't stress over it. I don't see the point. If you can't fix it, don't stress over it.
Easier said than done. Easier said than done. But I take your point. So, okay, so let's go back to approximately, how long have you been in the academy for? It'll be about 5 to 6 months now?
Nearly 6 months next week or the week after, yeah.
Cool. Okay, great. So let's go all the way back to 6 months ago. Where did you get to in terms of your weight, and was your weight your predominant kind of issue, so to speak?
Yeah, well, actually, just the week before I started, we went up the Hunter Valley for, like, after a bit of a weekend away with some family and friends, like family, and that weekend I didn't care. I just ate what I wanted. I was at 110 kilo when I got back. I had to buy 4 XL shirts when we went away, like just to have shirts that fitted me. I had to go out and buy clothes to go away that weekend.
So you're 110 kilos, and how tall are you?
178 centimeters.
Okay, so like 5'11", 5'10", thereabouts.
5'10", 5'11", yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so 5'10", 5'11", around 110 kilograms, and so where do you think your ideal weight would be? I mean, for me, I'm about 5'9" or 10, and I sit at about 84 kilograms. So I'm thinking it's going to be somewhere in that mid-80s would be the ideal for you.
Yeah, when I was playing footy in my 30s or late 20s, early 30s, I was about 90 kilo, and I thought that was pretty comfortable. I was pretty fit then when I was playing footy.
Yeah, and probably carrying a little bit extra muscle at that point in time, and
bit of bulk and size and that. Like, but that's where I thought I'd be sitting at 90.
I remember when we first spoke, I started going back through before we obviously started in the academy, I went through your Facebook photos just to get a feel for you. And there was one photo where it was you with about 4 or 5 mates at the races and you were all in suits. Yeah. And I saw a photo of you and you looked like almost like the John Singleton type character. It was like a bit of a larrikin. And I'm thinking to myself at this point in time, and I've never told you this, but I'm thinking to myself at this point in time, I'm thinking, how the fuck am I going to work with this guy? Like, he's 57 years old. He's a John Singleton type character. He's a larrikin. This is an online program. Like, how is this going to work? Did you have have the initial reservations along those lines as well about how's this going to work for me? Am I going to be able to commit to it, etc.?
Yeah, because I'm not a big social media person. I never have. I've got a couple of mates. I'm on a '𝐘𝐸𝐬 website. When I used to be in 𝐘𝐸𝐬𝐧. That's probably the only Facebook. I used to stalk my wife's Facebook. Like, watching to look at that. Yeah. I was a bit hesitant. I was a bit sort of, how's this going to work? Like, I'm going to have to post shit. I'm going to have to do photos myself. I remember taking the photo of a meal and posting it, and daughter said, "My God, did you hear yourself? You used to bag people for taking pictures of dinner,
and then you're doing it yourself."
She goes, "You are now a dinner poster. You know that, don't you? You now post meals." Yeah.
So how did you cross that? Because of many of the clients that we've worked with, hundreds of clients in the academy, you have been one of these guys, and I've noticed that this is typical of, let's call it, middle-aged fellas. They just don't question things like the young guys do. They just follow the bloody plan. So why is it that you were, even though you were resistant to it, why did you lean into the process?
I was talking to Gary Manuel about this the other day. We were going for a walk. And I said, I think it's because we've exhausted all other avenues. And I think we've got more life experience. We know there's a lot of things that don't work. So everything we tried up to now hasn't worked. Like, I've done protein only, went vegetarian for a year, and the weight come back. Everything I tried, the weight come back, or you stop training because it got too hard. So I think that's why the older blokes, like, you get to this point and you go, right, someone's got an idea here, let's do it. That's funny when I first started, because my family went, you found another shiny new object. How long is this going to last? And because that was what I was like. I never stuck to anything. It was, oh yeah, this is good, I'll do this. And then after a couple of months, drop this off, I'll find something else. You're saying, you sort of fall off the wagon and it don't work, so immediately you look for something else.
And so why do you think each occasion you kept falling off? Like, why was it? Was it because you weren't motivated, you haven't reached a breaking point, or what was it that what you were trying to do wasn't sustainable and didn't fit your lifestyle?
Probably didn't fit the lifestyle and wasn't sustainable. Like, I remember Gay saying to me when I did protein only, she goes, "This is ridiculous." And my daughter was saying, "You can't just eat protein. It's ridiculous. You've got to..." Like, my daughter's quite smart. Like, she said, "What are you doing, Dad? This isn't... You're not going to be able to keep this up." And they kept telling me that. And sure enough, like, the first 5 weeks there, I lost 6 kilos. And I lost a bit of weight. But as soon as I went back to eating carbs again, as soon as I stopped the protein only, bang, within 3 or 4 months. And then some on top.
And my whole thing is that, my apologies, buddy. There's a little bit of a lag there. My whole thing is that if you can't do it for 2 weeks, why even think that you can do it for the rest of your life? What we're trying to do here is not like a 10-week shred or a 10-week challenge. What we're trying to do is teach the fundamentals, which are actually fairly simple, and be able to integrate that into your life. So it's not this thing that you're like, I'm Jim and I'm doing this thing. It's that I'm Jim and I am this thing, and it's together. It's not separate to what you're doing. And I think the sustainability, your point there was a super valuable insight for me, Jim, where you said, I didn't understand, why is it that these middle-aged fellas are always like, and I could rattle them off, the superb transformations from people like yourself, obviously 𝐃𝐨𝐬, guys even far back as Alan Williams, these guys that have lost in excess of 20 kilos in a short period of time and maintained it. When you've reached a point where you've tried all else and you're willing to put your ego to the side, I think probably what it is when we're in our mid-20s, mid-30s, mid-40s, we've probably got a little bit of an ego and we can't entirely, detach from that and follow the process. So, man,
you're not fully committed.
Yeah.
You don't fully commit because you know better. I don't need to do this. I'll work this out. I think once you get older, you get a bit wiser, and you realise that everything you've tried hasn't worked. So why not just listen to someone else and try and commit to it and do it for a period of time and see what happens.
Mate, I love that. So let's go. Let's go. Okay, so you're into the program. What are the changes that you made initially off the back of the kind of teachings? What's the first few things you decided to go, you know what, I need to change this thing?
Mainly food. Yeah. Just I followed like to the letter, like with the first 2 weeks. Like with the food, I just stuck to it religiously. Fasted every day. I got the step count up. Started walking. Really, that was the biggest thing for me. And after about a week or two, the intermittent fasting was nothing. It wasn't, I just drank heaps of water, had me black coffees, and it become normal. After about 6 weeks, it didn't worry me.
And in itself, intermittent fasting is just one strategy. It's not for everyone, but it is a way to help us control our calories over the course of a 24-hour period. And it's one way. There are a multitude of different tools that we can employ. And this is just the one that you followed because we suggested it straight away. And I think it's commendable that you just followed that. When did you start? What gave you faith this time round to lean into the process? Did something happen early on which gave you the confidence that this one was, sustainable for you to do?
Well, I was looking at the meals. I remember my daughter in the first week going, that's a lot of food. And 𝐾𝐸 made a similar comment early in the first week or two. That's a lot of food you're eating.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the main things I thought, like this is a lot of food. Like you have your protein, you have your potato or your rice, then you just load the plate up with whatever green veggies and good carbs, and people say, and 𝐾𝐸 mentioned, you seem to be eating all the time. Like you're not missing out. And that was probably one of the that was the big thing that I thought, I can do this. Yeah. I can. There's no reason why I can't do this for the next 20 years.
I love that so much. It's built on what we teach is built on sustainability. It's not built on like massive restriction and going through these periods of crazy hunger. Our whole thing is to, like we said at the start, be able to integrate this into a permanent lifestyle decision going forward. What's been the biggest struggle for you as you started to build these newer habits? Has there been any times where you like kind of felt some resistance that was kind of hard to overcome?
Weights.
Doing weights. Talk to me about that. Yeah.
I didn't do weights for the first 8 weeks. Shiny new object. Had the bench out there, had all the gear, all the weights. Just couldn't get started. It's doing me head in. 𝐾𝐸's kept me more accountable through this than anyone. Yeah. You haven't done the weights. You're not doing the weights. Why aren't you out there doing the weights? It was just because I'm a shocking procrastinator at the best of times. I'll never be able to explain what it was.
So for the first kind of 8 weeks, we just made some nutrition strategies or changes there. Yeah. We got our step count up a little bit, but we hadn't really fully committed to lifting any weights. But that actually is probably one of the reasons why you've been successful, because you didn't get overwhelmed and take on too much at any one point in time.
For sure, yeah. I just focused on the nutrition side, which 𝐾𝐸 was fantastic with. Because after 2 weeks, I hadn't even looked at my fitness pal or anything, which is what I was supposed to do. But she done that for me. And Yeah, you're probably right, because I only had to focus on eating, which Kate took care of a lot of that with the meals.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed cooking. I cooked on the barbecue for the first 2 weeks.
Mm.
Like grilling vegetables, like eating vegetables in a different way that I sort of hadn't before, which was good.
Well, but that's not diet food though, Jim. That's not diet food.
No.
Like what's going on here, mate? You know, you should be on a diet. And guys, if you're watching, if you're kind of involved in this discussion either live or on replay on the podcast, this is the point that I want to make to you, is that you do not need to go on a diet. You do not need to go on a diet. You need to learn how to fuel your body with foods that keep you full, but help you to lose fat. And there is a specific strategy that we run through with our clients to help them to learn how to do this themselves. And it doesn't involve just eating salads. As Jim's talked about, let me ask you, what was the favorite food on the initial meal plan? Was there something you can remember just being like, oh, this is great?
Salmon.
Salmon.
Like cooked salmon with sweet potato fries and veggies.
So easy.
And like cook up a heap of mushrooms with it. Like I said, we were talking about it before. Like I'd look at my plate and go, "Look at that!" Like I made that, and now I'm
so good. So good.
You just look at it and go, and how easy it was. So simple. Like chuck some salmon on the barbie, chuck a few veggies on, throw some in the microwave, and chuck it all together. And you finish it and you go, "That was unreal."
You know, I blame MasterChef for the fatness of the world. And here's why, is because we think that to be able to eat healthfully, we've got to be able to be a good cook. The reality is, like, my personal meals take me a maximum of 15 minutes. That's it. And so when people say to me, what would you say is the most common reason that someone can't get started? It's that I don't have enough time, right?
Yeah,
that's the most common reason. I don't have enough time. Well, firstly, Jim didn't exercise at all, apart from step count, for the first 8 weeks. Okay. And the second thing is, you've got to eat. So you've got a choice that thing will be something that's going to help you or harm you. So equal amounts of time. In fact, generally speaking, super luxurious, hyper palatable, eating out foods are harder to cook. They take longer to cook than a simple barbecue. And so actually this idea of I don't have enough time falls away if you actually pull back on the kind of lies around that myth. So dude, let's talk about your journey. So you are around 6 months in. Where are you now weight-wise, and how much weight have you actually lost?
Well, I've been holding 80 kilos for 6 weeks.
80 kilos?
80 kilos.
Wow.
Sometimes might creep up to 81, 81.2 or 3. I've been 79 probably 3 or 4 times.
That's the difference between a big shit and not, mate. We just don't care about that type of variance, right? What we care about is the trajectory over the long term.
Yeah, and I've sort of started to, what do they call it? Reverse dieting. So I had breakfast every day. My son loves it because he always said I was on a diet. And when I said, use the word reverse diet, he goes, see, I told you, you're on a diet.
So for those of you that don't know what the hell a reverse diet is, this is where after a period of a deficit, we're bringing Jim's calories slowly back up, so that now that he's lost the fat, we can give him a little bit more room to move and a bit more kind of, room for a couple of beers and all that type of stuff without regaining the fat. So this is a really important part of the strategy. And it's the reason why coming into a program that lasts 6 weeks just doesn't work. You've got to have a long-term strategy on this. So you started at 110, you're now at around 80 kilograms. So touching around 30 kilos fat loss. What aside from the weight, like, because if it was just about the weight, like, the weight actually doesn't matter. The weight is just your relation to gravity on a set of scales. Who cares? What's the life change, mate? I want to know, like, when you put your pants on, when you look in the mirror, is there some things that have changed about you?
Oh, massive. You look in the mirror now, like, you think, shit. Like, I had man boobs when I started. I just had a massive gut. I look in the mirror now after I've had a shower and I think, shit, that takes me less time to have a shower now because I've got less to wash.
Too much information, but that's good.
Yeah. But yeah, just looking in the mirror now is just insane. Like, I've actually got like a chest, like starting to just got little wrinkles at the bottom now where my gut used to be.
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
it's just
why do you care? Like this has been a thing that it sounds like you've been kind of on and off trying to address your health over a period of time. Like, why do you actually care? Like, the weight is one thing, but why do you care? What made you keep coming back to trying to do something about it?
Because I want to live a long life. I want to be around.
Right.
And like, especially probably going back to when my kids were born. Like, I wanted to be able to do physical things with them. And that's sort of more so now that I've got a grandson. Like, I want to be able to get around. I want to be able to kick a football with him, run around, ride a bike, like do stuff with him. I don't want to be that grandfather that's sitting on the lounge. Go, oh, Pop can't do that. Oh, another time, like, I want to be able to be the Pop that gets up and goes, let's go, mate, let's go out and kick a ball, ride a bike, just go and do shit. Like, I crawled around with him the other day. We had him over Wednesday night. He had a sleepover. He's sort of, he gets up on his hands and feet and runs around the lounge room, and I was chasing him doing the same thing.
Could you have done that? Could you have done that 6 months ago?
No, wouldn't have thought of doing it. Would have been, that's too hard. Like, just sitting on the floor with him, rolling the ball backwards and forwards. Like, just getting down on the ground and being able to get up without looking like a beach whale or a turtle, like having to roll over and it's simple little things like that that now are easy now. I don't struggle with anymore. That's probably the biggest thing.
They're probably things that we enter with the idea of the kind of first level, I want to lose some fat. But what we don't realize is that if we stay focused on what we're losing, like, yes, losing fat's a good thing. And I don't know, there's something that's uninspiring about losing something. Okay, yeah, lose fat. I think we should turn a lot of focus and attention to what you've gained.
Yeah,
so
mobility.
Okay, now we're talking, right? I've gained mobility. I've gained confidence. I've gained... What about strength? Where's your strength at, particularly since you've started in a gym now, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, when I was doing a bit at home, like, but only once a week, twice a week. And I started, I think I was just doing normal bench press 25, and now I'm up to 45.
Dude, that's so good.
Yeah, and just general is just getting more and more. And just like simple arm curls, like, you know, they're just going up and up. Like, you know, on the bar now I'm up to 25 kilo, like arm curl. Just little things. I think I was out walking with my daughter and son-in-law and grandson a couple of weeks or a month or two ago at the entrance, and we walked past this outdoor gym thing, and I went, I wonder how many chin-ups I could do. and my daughter went, what? Because we had a bet years ago. It's a long story, but she said, how many do you reckon you could do? I said, no idea. I said, I'll have a crack. And I punched out 5. I couldn't remember. I couldn't do one. Like, seriously, I couldn't even try because it would hurt myself.
Man, that's just that's like super, super inspiring. And I think, like, what I'm starting to work out is how much I love working with middle-aged guys, like you said, because they can move the ego out of the way. And then the other thing about it is that the process is simple and they're full of gratitude and they want to return to everyone else. Like, what I get a sense of is that you're not like someone to get on a podcast, but you want to be inspiring other people and showing them that, you know what, like, if you can cross over this immediate fear and anxiety and self-doubt, you can do it. So, you know,
anyone can do it.
let's put a thing there. Like, have you had mates that you haven't seen for a while that you've seen, and then they've come to you and be like, "What the fuck have you done? Like, what how's this happened?"
Oh yeah, yeah. Funny enough, a lot of people don't recognise me now. They just walk straight past me, but that's for a good reason. But I think I bumped into Nathan Gray the other day. I was walking on the Esplanade. He sort of looked at me and went, "Oh, Jimmy." And we're having a bit of a chat and that, and I was telling him what I've been doing. And he said, "I was a bit worried. I didn't want to ask you because I thought you might have been crook."
Yeah.
And I've had that response probably once or twice.
Yeah.
That you haven't got cancer or anything. You're not on chemo or something. Like something bad hasn't happened. I go, couldn't be further from the other end.
I'll tell you what, jump on my back and I'll crack out 10 squats with you.
yeah, and that's and just other people I haven't seen for ages, and just going, "Mark, look at you. What have you been doing?" I go, just eating healthy and training. That's
feeling good.
It's been the strangest thing. It's been easy. It hasn't been hard. It's just sticking to the plan.
Well, I always say that. Excuse me. I always say that fat loss is simple, but the process of losing fat can be difficult if you don't lean in to the process and trust the process. If you can do this, it's actually quite simple. The difficulty is not caused by a lack of understanding on what works. I can tell you very simply what works and get you result very quickly. But what complicates or muddies the process is the fact that, you know what, like food is an emotional thing. We sit down with our family, we indulge, we have a few beers with the boys, and all those things make it, you're on and off the horse. You know, your line towards becoming a healthy version of yourself has been pretty fascinating in terms of it's been a pretty straight line. But for the most people, they're on and off and on and off and on and off. The journey takes at least a minimum of 6 to 12 months, and that's completely normal. You should fail. You know what I mean? As we kind of bring this to a close, couple of final questions, mate. What gives you confidence that you can keep it off? Like because you have had it off and then put it back on again before. What gives you confidence that you can keep it off and maintain?
Because I am health now. I don't do health. I am healthy. It's become it's me. It's who I am now. Like I had some people say, "Oh, like, what about when you go out? Like, what are you going to do when you go out for dinner?" I go, "Easy. Just eat healthy. Just because you go out doesn't mean you got to eat shit.
Yeah.
There's healthy meals when you go out. You know, it's just you become something. I never understood it at the start.
Yeah.
But I do understand it now.
Yeah. Yeah, when that's a really good point. At a certain point, it crosses over from being something you do to something you are. And when you make that transition there, brother, you're never going back. Like that's just the transition. So good.
Yeah.
Mate, I'm going to you're off to do some boxing, right?
Yeah, I've still got I don't have to be there till 8:15. No,
mate, that's all good. Well, I'm going to finish it up now. I just wanted to honor your time. For anyone that's kind of watching, particularly, let's just pretend that there's a guy there that's one of your mates that's thinking to themselves, fuck, man, like this like belt buckle's starting to slide out further and I don't like it, but you know what? I don't want to do this dumb fitness shit. Like what would you honestly say? And don't just fluff something just for it. Like, what would you honestly say? Let's say it was your best mate and he was just like, man, I just don't know if I can do it. Like how would you approach that? Because my whole mission is to help transform 1 million lives. And I think rather than me talking about it, hearing from blokes that have done it is a far better, advertisement or endorsement of the process.
Yeah. I just sort of say, I'm like, what we've talked about, put your ego to one side. Just have a look at yourself and go, nothing else has worked. And it's, how bad do you want it? And you just got to work hard for it. Like, you just got to be committed. That's probably the biggest thing I'd say, just be committed. And at first, it was totally foreign to me, some of the stuff. Like reading all the guides and thinking, it's a lot of shit. Like, what's all this stuff? This is all this blah, blah, blah. Like, but you just take take a step. It's like standing at the edge of a cliff and you're going to do an abseil or you're going to jump out of an aeroplane. Take a leap of faith and just go. Enjoy the journey. Like, even if you don't enjoy it, jump off it. But I guarantee you, once you get into it and you start to see results, and that's one of the biggest things, you start to see results pretty early. And just keep, and even if you do fall off, it's the best thing about this group. If you fall off, you can jump back on. Like you don't, just because you fall off, don't think it's all over.
Well, you're meant to fall off. That's the whole point. You're kind of meant to fall off because that's at that point where you go, oh man, I learned a lesson there, and I've got to avoid that and do this next time. And there's no part of it which is like, you know, you'd be able to go for, you know, it's spring racing carnival coming up around now. You know, there's no reason that you can't go and have 10 beers with the boys and then just get back on track the next day. When you are a healthy man, it actually becomes easier to do and be healthy than it is hard. Because it's actually harder for you now because you've made that transition. It's actually harder for you to go and be unhealthy.
Yeah, I haven't eaten junk food from the start, from day one. I haven't had a hamburger or chips. I haven't bought takeaway food for 6 months.
Wow.
And people, and some mates say, oh, now you can have a beer, you can have a drink. I said, yeah, I know I can. I know I can have a beer. I choose not to at the moment. That's all. It's a choice.
Yeah. And when we become, sorry, you go.
And I think that's the point I was trying to make to a few of them, is it's a choice. It's my choice not to drink. I'll have a few beers with someone. I'll have a bottle of water. I'll have a cup of tea while you're having a beer. Like there's no, I think with a lot of people my age, middle age, it becomes a bit of a badge of honour to have a drink. What we were saying before about earning a drink, or you can have a drink of water and a cup of tea. It's just fluid you're putting in your body. Yeah.
Or equally, you can have a beer and that's okay. Like, and just get back on the horse. Like I think I did a podcast episode a couple of weeks back called Black and White Lose the Fight. If you're just operating in this, like, you're in this pendulum of like, if I'm not perfect, I'm a failure. It does not work, and it doesn't have to be that way. So, final words? You were going to say something?
Yeah, we were having the grandson's birthday party, and it felt strange because I had a bit of potato, bacon, and sausage, and it felt like,
oh, this is naughty.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Who the hell are you?
Gabe's looking up at me from the end of the table, going, "I seen what you just ate then." I said, "Too bad, tastes good."
Deposits and withdrawals, right, mate? That's what we know.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
There was nothing. Yeah, and the couple of times I've had a couple of drinks or I've eaten something like that, and I'm still the same weight. Yeah, it doesn't make any difference whatsoever.
Back on track. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just back on. Yeah, too.
Well, Matt, I want to thank you for coming on and kind of sharing your story this morning, Jim. I think it's super inspiring. And again, if I reflect back to where we started and how I was like, how am I going to fucking help John Singleton out? In hindsight, it's a repetition of a theme, which is, you know, these boys in this sort of 40 to 60 age range, particularly, they're just so easy to help out because they're willing to trust the process. So thank you for trusting the process. Thanks for sharing your story. Guys, if you are watching live, feel free to give Jim a commendation comment. Yeah, I think he'd appreciate it. He is really, really nailed it. I mean, 30 kilograms at, you know, nearly 60 years old, to lose that is incredible. He's in the best shape of his life. So thanks, Jim. I appreciate you, mate.
No worries, my pleasure.
Let's do it, guys. Have a beautiful weekend. This has been the Better Body Academy podcast, the podcast that you come to when you're sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs, and we'll see you in the next episode.
See you later.